What's the funniest joke you've ever heard?
Joe, a new cop, gets paired with Officer Jim on his first day on the job. Jim is a good partner for rookies because he knows exactly what to do in every imaginable situation. They get a call about a gorilla being on the roof of a building, causing a ruckus and posing potential danger to people near the building. Jim instructs Joe to load up a trained dog, handcuffs, a ladder, and a shotgun into their van and they take off. When they arrive, Jim says, "I'm going to climb up the ladder onto the roof and wrestle the gorilla. I'm going to throw him to the ground. When he hits the ground, you release the dog. He has been trained to bite the gorilla in the groin. This will surprise the gorilla and you will have enough time to get those handcuffs on him. Then we'll get him into the van." Joe understands, but has a question. "What about the shotgun?" Jim answers, "If the gorilla wins and throws me to the ground, shoot the dog." What is South Korea's favorite genre of music? Soul. Cop pulls over two priests. He walks up to the car, leans in the window and says, "The reason I stopped you is because we're looking for two child molesters." The priests look at each other, nod and tell the cop, "All right, we'll do it." A man returned home and was delighted to find out someone had broken in and stolen all of his lamps. Sorry, that joke was kind of dark. A priest, a rabbi, an imam, a scientist, and a chicken walk into a bar. The bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve jokes here." The chicken says, "Come on, guys. I know a place across the street." Why was Piglet in the toilet? He was looking for poo. Have you heard of a reverse exorcism? It's when the devil commands the priest to get out of the child. A Mexican magician was doing a show for an enraptured audience. After many amazing tricks, he announced that he was going to make himself vanish at the count of 3. So he starts counting down. You know. Dos. Poof. And then he vanished without a trace. A dyslexic couple are sat watching TV at home. One turns to the other and says, "Can you smell gas?" The other replies, "I can't even spell my own name." How can you tell your girlfriend is getting fat? This one is just so lowbrow that it catches people off guard. I can't say. The funniest joke I ever heard was from my father, but it is so unacceptable I have decided to never tell it. I have spent a good deal of my life trying to replace it. Check out my name. So here I go with the best joke I can share. How do all sexist jokes start? Swivel head back and forth looking for who is nearby. A blind man enters a shop with his seeing eye dog, grabs its tail and twirls it around above his head. The shop owner is flabbergasted and asks the customer, "Sir, what are you doing to your dog?" The customer replies, "Oh, I'm just browsing. 1pf my favorite threads. Thanks for the laughs." Why is it that we shouldn't tell a Jim Jones joke? Because the punchline is too long. A man goes to the doctor for a prostate exam. The doctor says, "I have some bad news. You're going to have to stop masturbating." The man says, "What do you mean I have to stop masturbating? Why?" The doctor says, "Because I'm trying to check your prostate." Vincent van Gogh is having a beer in his local cafe. In walks Gauguin, who spots him and asks, "Hi Vinny, want a beer?" Van Gogh replies, "No thanks Paul, I've got one here." A dyslexic man walks into a bar. What's the difference between a prostitute, a mistress, and a wife? The prostitute says, "Oh baby, aren't you done yet?" The mistress says, "Oh baby, why are you done so soon?" The wife glances up and says, "Oh baby, shouldn't we paint the ceiling beige?" How do you get a farm girl to marry you? Attract her. Two communists are hanging out at a nudist colony. One turns to the other, "Have you read Marx?" "Yes, I think it's the wicker chairs." "Why don't mosquitoes bite clowns? They taste funny." What's 18 inches long and makes women scream? Sudden infant death syndrome. How does Bob Marley like his donuts? We jam in anything that came out of Norm Macdonald's mouth. Not many people know this, but Dolly Parton is an accomplished businesswoman. Her specialty is taking struggling businesses and combining them into one profitable business. Recently, she combined the business of Big Lots, Piggly Wiggly, and Harris Teeter. The new business is called Big Wiggly Teeters. What do you do when your wife starts smoking? Use a lubricant. Why did Sally fall off the swing? Why? Because she had no arms. Knock knock. Who's there? Not Sally. It's so stupid, but it gets me every time I tell it. Smiley face. A man calls 911 to report a hunting accident. The operator asks him what happened and he says he accidentally shot his hunting partner and he thinks his partner is dead. The operator quickly agrees to help, but first he states that he must be sure that the hunter is actually dead. A pause. Bang. After a moment the hunter returns to the phone line and says okay, he's dead. Now what? Guy walks into a bar. Right into it. What's brown and sticky? A stick. What did Helen Keller name her dog? Waha mama, he needed. You know Helen Keller had a doghouse in her backyard? Neither did she. Why did the cat stop walking? It was on pause. Paw prints. What do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhino? Shrugs shoulders. Elefino. Hell if I know. I could probably beat Superman in a vegetable eating contest. I mean, he could eat the wheelchair, but there's no way he'd eat the vegetable. The doctor tells his patient, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're gonna have to stop masturbating. But why? Otherwise I won't be able to examine you. What's worse than ants in your pants? Uncles in your pants. What's the difference between a nun in church and a nun in the bathtub? One's got hope in her soul, and the other's got soap in her hole. What's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? I wouldn't pay 50 quid to have a lentil on my chest. Do you want to hear a lame joke? There once was a man with one leg. u/melodic_landscape 937. A dwarf stumbles into a bar because he's a little drunk. A couple wrote each other an epitaph on their tombstones. On her it read, as cold as ever. On his, stiff at last. Two cows in a field. First one says to the other, have you heard about this mad cow disease? Second cow replies, doesn't affect me, I'm a helicopter. My wallet is like an onion, when I open it, I was crying. I remember as a kid, the first joke I really got and really laughed at was in the Muppets. Dr. Bob was in the operating room with Miss Piggy and she said, Doctor, this patient is at death's door. Dr. Bob said, don't worry, we'll pull him through. Still remember that all these years later. Smile. This one is a little long and works better verbally, but here goes. A guy walks into a bar and says to the bartender, hey man, I have a tiny piano player in my pocket. If you give me a free beer, I'll have him play you a song. The bartender is skeptical of course, but he's curious enough, so he pours the man a beer. Sure enough, the man reaches into his pocket and pulls out a tiny man, less than a foot tall. The tiny man is in a tuxedo and he has a little piano with him and everything, so he plays the bartender a beautiful song. The bartender is amazed and he asks the man, how did you find this tiny piano player? The man replies, well, in my other pocket I have a tiny wizard, and he grants wishes. If you give me another free beer, I'll let you make a wish. The bartender doesn't hesitate to pour another beer for the man, and sure enough, he reaches into his other pocket and pulls out a tiny wizard, even smaller than the piano player. The wizard is wearing a robe and he has a staff, and the man tells the bartender to go ahead and make his wish. The bartender thinks for a moment and then says, I wish for $1 million. The wizard waves his wand in the air and it glows, and all of a sudden, a duck appears out of thin air. And another. Before they knew it, the bar was filling with ducks from floor to ceiling. Everybody ran out in a panic, and the bartender says to the man, what the heck? I told the wizard I wanted $1 million, not $1 million ducks. The man replies, oh sorry, I totally forgot to tell you. I think the wizard has some hearing problems. You think I wanted a 10-inch pianist? There were 3 guys in an airplane. 2 with a knife and 1 with a bomb. The first guy with a knife accidentally dropped it out of the plane and jumped out after it. When he landed, he saw a little boy crying. What's wrong, little boy? Said the man with tears in his eyes. The boy replied, a knife came out of the sky and killed my dog. The second guy with the knife accidentally dropped it out of the plane and jumped out after it. When he landed, he saw a little girl crying. "What's wrong, little girl?" said the man with tears in his eyes. The girl replied, "A knife came out of the sky and killed my cat." Finally, the guy with the bomb accidentally dropped it out of the plane and jumped out after it. When he landed, he saw a little boy laughing hysterically. "What's so funny, little boy?" said the man, gasping for breath. The boy replied, "I farted and my house blew up."